Healthy Learners, and it's presented by Erica Ayers, South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, the school wellness consultant. I'm Dr. Gerard Ayers, I'm the moderator, and I'm going to introduce Ms. Erica Ayers. Erica is the school wellness consultant with the Division of Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Obesity Prevention at the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Erica has over 10 years of experience working at the state level to improve school environments to support healthy eating and active living through policy, systems, and environmental approaches, including local wellness policies, open community use, and the South Carolina Fitness Grant. Erica has earned her master's in public health and her bachelor's of exercise science from the University of South Carolina, go Gamecocks, and is a master's certified health education specialist. Erica stays active by chasing after her 5- and 3-year-old boys. Ms. Erica Ayers.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And then Bree, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in more detail in a little bit. But with our participant that we have right now, we are all about having some intimate groups. So that's totally fine with us. We want to get to know who is in our virtual room. So if you wouldn't mind using the chat box and you see a question on the screen, sharing with us a positive experience you have had with family engagement and physical activity. So this could be something from your childhood. This could be something that has recently happened, or this could be something that you have seen done in your own school community. So again, a positive experience in physical activity. And while you ponder on that and respond in the chat box, Bree and I are actually going to share our family engagement experiences. So for me, again, Erica Ayers, school wellness consultant, the way our family likes to engage in physical activity is to just go outside and have fun and to play. So on the weekends, we like to go to the lake to go swimming or to go kayaking. My oldest likes to explore new sports. He tried soccer, wasn't a big fan. That's okay. We'll try something else. But these are our weekend activities, right? We have the time to do it. During the weekday, when there's very limited time, usually the boys, their favorite thing to do is just go to the neighbor's house and play in the cul-de-sac while I'm walking the dog and my husband's in the garage doing yoga or lifting weights. So now I'm going to pass it along to Bree to introduce herself and to share her family engagement.
Hello, everybody. My name is Breonna Mealing, and I'm the fitnessgram coordinator at SCDHEC, and Erica is my colleague. And we're excited to present to you all today. So my family, we love to do all things outdoors. When we're able to, we like to take adventures together and incorporate some sort of physical activity. So whether that's on a walk at the beach or at the river walk, in a forest or a hike up a mountain, pretty much anywhere where the weather is nice, we love to be outdoors. Next slide. So I'll go ahead and get us started with our learning objectives for today. Our family members play an integral role in shaping the learning and development and health of our students. So the relationship between families and schools reinforce children's health and learning in multiple settings at home, in schools, in and out of school time programs, and in the community. And so in this presentation, we'll highlight the benefits of school and community engagement to support physical activity for students and families, share some sources of data to address student health inequities, to better support physical activity and proven practices that schools and communities can use to increase physical activity for students and their families. Next slide. And we'll get started with some of the benefits of physical activity. So it's recommended that youth get 60 minutes of physical activity each day. Next slide. And the benefits of being physically active, especially for our students, occurs from head to heart. And some of those benefits are listed here. Physical activity can improve concentration, builds confidence, strengthens muscles and bones, and helps to maintain healthy weight, improves cardiorespiratory fitness, improves immunity, makes you feel good. The list can really go on. Next slide. And another good example of physical activity and its benefit is how it improves the brain function. And this is an example of a famous study done by Dr. Hillman, where he took 2 sets of students, students that sat quietly for 20 minutes and another set that walked for 20 minutes. And they took an exam. And what you can see in this image is that the more colorful brain scan shows more brain activity. So you can imagine which students did better on their exams. They had more brain function, more brain activity. And so a fun quote that Erica likes to share, if your bum is numb, your brain is too. And so this is a good example of that. And so the takeaway from this is physical activity really can improve your brain function, which is essential for learning. Next slide. These benefits of physical activity for students is more powerful when schools, communities, and families work together. And this is just a quote that we want to share from CDC, where school efforts to promote health among students have been shown to be more successful when parents are involved. So essentially, effective family-school partnerships bring together your district leaders, it brings together your school staff, your families to identify challenges to family engagement and specific child needs, and then develops and implements and evaluates effective and equitable solutions as a team. Next slide. And I'll just briefly mention this. These are just a few components of effective family partnerships. And we'll share a few more of these a little bit later in the presentation. But just to highlight a few, this would look like inclusive culture, trusting relationships, building capacity, and dedicating resources that are necessary for these sorts of partnerships. Next slide. So I want you to take a moment to just pause and reflect on a scale of 1 to 5. How strong would you rank your school's current state of family-school partnerships, especially when it comes to active schools environments? 1 is sort of weak right now, or 5 is very strong. So if you get a chance, I know this is an intimate setting, so if you get a chance, just put that in the chat box and really think about that, because we'll talk a little bit more about what the data is saying as well in a moment. All right. So how are we doing with helping students reach these benefits that we just mentioned? And I'm going to share some resources of data that addresses the current fitness status of students in South Carolina, including some health inequities to show where better support related to physical activity is needed. And I'll start with this to highlight that the South Carolina Student Health and Fitness Act, specifically the physical education and physical activity piece, is an opportunity for school and family engagement concerning students' health and fitness. And there's a requirement at using this act that parents and caregivers receive a report of their child's fitness in grades 5, 8, and high school. So again, this is an opportunity. Next slide. And what I want to highlight here is that in order to ensure the wellness and academic success of our students in South Carolina, we really need to make students' fitness a priority. And we can do this by incorporating physical activity at the school, at home, and in the community every day. And so just highlighting that opportunity with the parents receiving reports of their student fitness, this is a good place to start. And so I just mentioned earlier that I'm the FitnessGram coordinator. So FitnessGram is a resource that can help accomplish this, making students' fitness a priority. And so FitnessGram measures and improves student fitness by working with schools to enhance physical education and create more opportunities for physical activity. And FitnessGram also helps school districts and communities to provide proven practices to increase the amount of time students are physically active. Next slide. And so what we see right now with this FitnessGram initiative, there's over 90% of districts that are participating. The numbers are changing, each year. There's some consolidations this year, but roughly around 90% of districts are participating, which is well over 1,000 plus schools and the potential reach of over 700,000 students. Next slide. But what is that data showing us? And this may be something new to you. And this is why we're wanting to share this information, because it's important if we're trying to prioritize physical activity and fitness. 3 in 4 students are not physically active. And we also see it with our FitnessGram data that more than 50% of students do not have good cardiorespiratory fitness. So meaning their heart and lung function is not that great. And 2 out of 5 students are overweight or obese. And we also know that COVID-19 made it difficult for students to be physically active. And some other points of data to highlight here: African-American females have the lowest rates of meeting fitness standards. And students who are living in poverty, they have lower rates of fitness than those students that are not living in poverty. Next slide. And this trend doesn't just stop at adolescents. Children and youth who are physically inactive are more likely to become adults who are physically inactive, which greatly increases their risk of getting seriously sick, developing chronic illnesses and diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular diseases. Next slide. And this is another slide that's showing in South Carolina the current rate of obesity. And it's really important to highlight at the bottom, remember that Black students, female students, have less rates of physical activity and fitness. 43% of Black adults are obese in South Carolina. So it's important to highlight. But how do we address this data? What do we need to do about it? It's a lot easier to learn a lifelong skill such as reading, writing, and enjoying physical activity as a child than it is to change that behavior as an adult. And so I'm going to hand it over to Erica, who's going to help us understand what we can do to change this trend. Erica.
Thank you, Bree. So Bree did a really great job of talking about the benefits of physical activity and how to engage those families for those benefits, and then also what the data says. So we know we should be healthy because it's good for us, but unfortunately, we're not where we should be when it comes to our health. And Bree share those statistics with you about our students' status of health and fitness right now. And it really tells a story. So today's youngest generation, our children, the students that are in our schools right now, are predicted to be the first generation to live shorter lives than their parents. And that all goes back to their health-related fitness data. So their cardiovascular, cardio fitness data, their body mass index, their weight status data. And so the good news is that we can change that trend. So what we want to share now are some proven practices to engage families and communities to help create those active environments, whether it's at school, at home, or in the community. So these are some tools and resources that you can take back to the groups that you work with. Be like, look, we need our kids to be active because this is where they currently are. And here's some proven practices, some resources to help us do that. So I like to start with the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. If you were able to participate in the previous session, those were some of our great partners with Healthier Generation. If you were not in that previous session, they are a national nonprofit who work with schools, school district communities at no cost to help them create healthy learning environments so that students can thrive emotionally, physically, and of course, academically. And us at Department of Health and also our partners at Department of Education, our FitnessGram partners and many others are working with Healthier Generation to support student health and fitness. And so family engagement and community engagement, like if you were in the previous session, are a huge component in what they do, and they integrate it in all of their work. This is an example of what successful implementation, successful partnership with Healthier Generation looks like in our schools. So in Richland 1, which some of y'all may know is one of the largest school districts in South Carolina, all of their schools have been nationally awarded as healthy schools due to their partnership with Healthier Generation. And that success came from them integrating and including their family and community members in the work that they do. So just a couple of examples of what they've done. Not only have they been able to pass policies that support healthy eating and active living for their students, but they also have very fun fitness family engagement events, such as fundraisers, 5Ks, and things like that. Healthier Generation has also partnered with Kohl's. You may have heard about this previously, to create some free family engagement resources. And they're on the link provided on the screen if you want to go explore them. One of those resources is the Healthy Day Toolkit, which supports physical, social, and emotional well-being for kids and adults. So it's for the students and the families. And what I like about it is that it includes easy tips that require little time and resources, which is the life of families, right? That support what you see on the screen. So connection, nutrition, learning, rest, celebration, and of course, what we're talking about today, movement. So it's about not how do you set aside time and resources to be physically active, but how do you integrate physical activity into your, and these other components into your already busy day. So I like to pull examples from the section on chores. So first off, how do I get my 3 and 5-year-old engaged in helping me with chores? And then also, how can we use that to get a little bit more movement in our day? So for me, it's about getting them to see who can pick up the most toys, or seeing how far they can throw their clothes into the laundry basket. So again, limited time, limited resources to do these things. It's just sort of like rethinking how you do, like when you go to the grocery store, are you circling around the parking lot for 10 minutes trying to find the closest space? Or do you go a little bit further back because you know you'll get a few more steps in? So another national partner that we like to use for resources is Springboard to Active Schools. They are great for working with schools and communities to create active learning environments. And they have tons of free resources that can be used in the school setting, in the home setting, or in the community setting. And you can access those on the link provided on the screen. This is an example of one of their physical activity cards that they came out with. And was actually, what's cool about it is they came up with this and tons of other easy tips like this during COVID, which was essential because the teachers were trying to figure out how do we actively engage, get our students interested on a Zoom call, but also how do we help them get up and get some activity? Like Bree was saying, if their bum is numb, their brain is too, and it's so much harder in a virtual setting. So this was an example of how to do that. And I actually want us to take a few minutes to participate in it ourselves. So this is a scavenger hunt. I do like to do this at home with my kids sometimes, not exactly this format, but I tweak it a little bit. But what I came up with is for each of us to go find at least about 5 items, and I have them listed using our 5 different senses. So you can see how this can also align with some educational components, right? And so I want us to take about 30 seconds or so, and all of us, I'm talking about you, Mr. Moderator, and you with the IT team, because we're a group, we're a small group. So we're all going to do this. Me and Bree are going to get up and do it too. But I want you to take about 30 seconds to go find something red. Go find something that's rough to the touch. Go find something that's smelly. It could be a good smell or a bad smell. Find something that's tasty. And then I want you to find something that's loud or can be loud. So again, we're all going to participate. I'm going to turn my camera off. And in about 30 seconds, I'm going to come back when I'm ready. So be ready to share. Okay. So ready, set, and go. All right, so while you're making your way back, please turn your camera on so that we know everyone is available, and we're going to do a show and tell. And if you were only able to find 1 or 2 things, that is totally fine. All right, people are starting to come back, so that's good. While we're waiting on some others to make their way back in the room. Hold on, let me look at the time. Give them a little bit more time. All right. Okay. Most people got their cameras back on. Awesome. Okay. So, Bree, let's start with you. Show us one or two things that you got.
All right. Is anybody else breathing a little hard like I am from sprinting around? I got something red and tasty. Two birds with one stone, and something smelly, which is this really nice candle. Those are two things that I'll share.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to just go down my screen. My moderator, what did you bring to show us?
I got something red. It was a tab. I found that. Tasty. I got some chewing gum. Smelly. I got a marker. You know, you can. Rough. This bag has kind of different, and loud. Just in case that if you go over your time.
Perfect.
Oh goodness. That's it.
Thank you. All right. My IT support, what did you bring to show us?
So I have this little rock from my little desktop Zen garden for rough. I brought a banana for tasty, took some creative liberty and brought pink Post-it notes because I couldn't find anything red. And then for loud, I have some peanut butter crackers, and I can think so if you go like that, it's pretty loud.
That was creative. Good job.
Thanks.
All right, Micah.
Yeah, so I've got this picture of my kids. It's a Christmas picture, so a lot of them are wearing red.
That's cute.
And I got this tape edge here is kind of rough of my tape on my desk. Something smelly is my trash can from underneath my desk. Tasty is this cookie that I paused eating so that I could show it to everybody because it's tasty. And then I keep this guitar in my office for breaks, and it could be really loud. So
Nice. That might be the nicest loud that we can find. Thank you for sharing. All right, Gwendolyn, what did you bring for us? You're on mute, Gwendolyn, but we can see it.
Oh, something red, something rough, the Velcro, something smelly, the poop spray, something tasty, that, and then I also have a speaker for something loud.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you. And then Sally, I don't know if you were available and able to participate. Okay. I'll show you what I brought. So I also sort of doubled mine. For my red and for my smelly is this container that I use for composting. So there's some banana peels in here that are really ripe and gross. For my rough and for my tasty is my orange. But I also grabbed my nail file because that was in my desk drawer. And then for my loud is my kid's toy truck. So lots of these around the house. Let me actually move it so you don't have to hear it anymore. Okay, so, oh, and then my dog's loud. Perfect. Look what I did. So that was, I like that activity for a lot of reasons. One, you can use it in different environments, whether it's home, school, or in a community setting. Two, thinking about the equity lens of it. If you were using it in a virtual school setting, you don't have to have a lot of space or a lot of resources to participate in that. And also, if a student or a child has limited mobility, you can change that up a little bit. It may be not what can you get up and do, but maybe like, what's your favorite thing that's red? What's your favorite smell? And then do some stretches while you're at it. So sometimes when I'm just like in the moment and I'm trying to cook and my kids are driving me crazy, I'm like, go find me 3 toy trucks. So, you know, just getting up, moving around. You don't have to sweat, although Bree admitted that she did do a little sweating. But again, just want to get your butt up and moving so that you got that brain activity happening. So thank you for participating in that. And I'm going to move along in our presentation. So another proven practice that we look at is the Comprehensive School Physical Activity Program. And I know that's a mouthful, but in a nutshell, it's just providing opportunities for students to be physically active before, during, and after the school day. So I like to look at it like English language arts. Students go to their English language arts class to learn the fundamental skills of reading and writing. And then throughout the school day, at home and in the community, we provide them with ample opportunities to practice reading and writing so they become proficient in it for a lifetime. We should be doing the exact same thing for physical activity. Students go to physical education class to learn those fundamental basic physical activity skills: walking, running, skipping, jumping. It's not just about sports anymore. It's about teaching them skills so they can be active and healthy for a lifetime. And we should be providing them with those opportunities to practice being physically active throughout the school day, at home, and in the community. And you can see one of the key components of this framework is community and family engagement. So if we did a deeper dive into that, check my time, we're doing really good. If we did a deeper dive into that component of physical activity, it's really looking at families, communities, and school staff working together to increase those opportunities, like I mentioned before, during and after the school day. Before the school day could be active transportation to school. It could be walking and biking to school. It could be simply opening up the gymnasium. I know my kid, when he goes to school, they send him to the cafeteria, but what if they sent him to the gym instead? During the school day, that's of course your recess, but it's also how do they integrate physical activity in that classroom? You know, we talked about how do you integrate physical activity into your daily task at home? How can you do the same in the classroom? And Healthier Generation, Springboard to Active Schools, they have tons of resources that we can share with our schools on how to do that. And then after the school day could be those activities after school, whether it's after school care, incorporating physical activity, those sports clubs or sports groups for students. But thinking about the kids that aren't athletic, I'm not athletic. I love to be active. I am not a sports person. So what kind of activity options do we have for them after the school day as well? And so I'm actually going to share a few more examples of what these look like. And I'm going to align them with those key components that Bree briefly shared earlier on effective family school partnerships. So first, looking at inclusive culture. This is all about respecting the lived experiences of our families. And I felt like a lot of that was talked about in this morning's keynote session, which I really loved. But a big piece of this is making sure that our families, no matter who they are, what their background is, has a voice, and then they feel safe expressing and using that voice. And a couple of examples of how a school can do this is having families represented at the district level on their district wellness committee. So every school district is required to have a district wellness committee. This is a federal and state mandate, and it's required to be diverse, which includes having representatives for your families and your community serve on it as well. Because these are the folks who are going to make key decisions on how to support access to healthy foods and opportunities for physical activity in your school district and school environment. An example at the more local school building level is to have this representation on your school wellness committee, which isn't a requirement, but you know, Richland School District 1, they do have school wellness committees at each of their schools, which is awesome. But also school improvement councils, which is a requirement for every school to have, to make those decisions that improve the environment of their school so that their kids are healthy, safe, and ready to learn. And so how do you get a diverse council where you've got more family and community members represented? Now, obviously, it's not feasible to invite all of our families to serve on these committees. And obviously, it also requires folks who have the time to actually participate in these meetings. But another easy way to help our families share their voice, especially as it relates to the health of their children, the health of the students of the school, is just to simply send out surveys. And they don't have to be these long, daunting, like 15 question surveys. It could be some simple questions where you ask, you know, what kind of physical activity do you like to engage in at home? What kind of resources would you need to engage in physical activity at home? What type of physical activity opportunities at school would you like your child to have access to? And these are surveys where you could just do a simple QR code and include it on your newsletter or email updates that parents are getting on a regular basis to get that feedback. So moving on to the second component, which is building trusting relationships. This is really focused on one, communication. So making sure that the communication between the schools and our parents is continuous and that it's transparent. And it's also about creating positive experiences for our families. So the first example I have on here is having a meet and greet with PE teachers. And the reason why we include that is, first off, we know that most schools at the beginning of the school year, they have a meet and greet for the families and the students to meet their teachers for the first time in a casual, safe space so that they can, start building that trusting relationship. But why don't we always do it? Why don't we do it for the PE teachers too? I know I personally went to go find the PE teacher at my son's school and I couldn't find her. And I wish that they would have made her more accessible so that I could learn more about what his physical activity experience is going to be at the school. And the way this sort of links back to those positive family experiences is thinking about your experience when you took PE, whether it was 20, 30, 40 plus years ago. Maybe it wasn't the most positive experience. Maybe it was very sports centric. And if you weren't the athlete in the class, then you really didn't get a lot out of it. PE is nothing like that now, which is amazing and awesome. They have evolved a lot. And like I mentioned earlier, their sole focus is really to teach our students those basic fundamental skills so they can be physically active and healthy for a lifetime. So that's a great way to start with a positive family experience as it relates to physical activity. Other examples I have on here is highlighting physical activity opportunities in your school communication. So I gave the example earlier about you could use your newsletter to do surveys, but you could also use your newsletter to put those easy, time-saving, limited resources needed tips on how they could be physically active either in their home or in their community. Those partners we shared earlier, Healthier Generations, Springboard to Active Schools, they have tons of these already curated resources, tips with links that could be copy pasted and added to a newsletter or an email or your social media account. Another thing I like to share when it comes to developing these trusting relationships for positive experiences is, I would say, I don't know the statistics, but being a mom myself, I usually hear from my son's school when something bad has happened, not when something good has happened. So that really dampens the relationship that I might potentially have with my son. Now we're only in the month into the school year and he's really starting to, he's transitioning into his kindergarten class. So there may be more struggles than positive things to share with me at this time. That's fine. And I'm like getting real personal with you now. But if a family is only hearing from their school when something bad has happened, then what do you think, how willing do you think they are to have that trusting relationship with their school? So we need to rethink what we're communicating with our parents, how often we're communicating with, and making sure that we are sharing those positive things, those highlights, those showcases, the physical activity opportunities available to them. And then I forgot to say, but if you've got some things at your school or things that you've seen happen that you want to share with others related to these things, please share. So like, what is your school community doing to build trusting relationships with your parents, your families? So please feel free to add that to the chat so we can share with each other. So that third component of capacity building opportunities, this is in a nutshell, saying that we have to do a much better job than just telling our families, hey, you should engage in physical activity because it's good for you and your kids. We have to give them these resources and the opportunities to be physically active. So again, it could be sharing those easy tips, those resources that go home on how can you incorporate physical activity in your already busy day, simple things you can do for family engagement. Or a big thing that I've really gotten into recently is letting families know what resources are available to them in their community, especially those resources that are free. And then like thinking about places to be physically active. So that could be the parks in their neighborhood. It could be trails in their neighborhood. I've lived in my neighborhood for 8 years and I just learned that there's a park across the street from my kid's school that's free, and it has amazing playgrounds. It has amazing trails. There's playing fields. There's a disc golf course. There's bike racks. There's bathrooms. There's even a trail that connects this park to my kids' school. So I had no idea this existed. But what if the other families in my kids' school knew that there was this resource available to them for free right next to the school where they can go and not only be physically active after school on the weekends, but what I actually do now is park at this community park. And I walk my kid to school every morning now. It's a half-mile walk. It only takes us about 10, 15 minutes. And it's a great way for us to be physically active and spend quality time together. So making sure that our families are aware of the resources that are available to them. This also works on the flip side. We have to do a better job than tell our schools, hey, you need to provide your students more physical activity. We have to help them find the resources to do it too. And a great resource that already exists in every single school are the families. So you could have a parent who is a Zumba or yoga instructor who would love to do some free classes every once in a while, not only for other families and students, but the staff, thinking about the staff wellness of those in the school. If you're having one of those family school events, bring the yoga instructor and have that as an opportunity for physical activity. You can also, what if you have like a parent who's a bike enthusiast and they would be more than happy to teach students how to safely ride a bike and even do a bike drive where they can get bikes donated and safety gear donated. So not only are the kids learning how to safely bike, but then they're also getting the resources that they can take home and bike around the neighborhood, maybe even use that trail from the park to school, to bike to school. So these are just examples on how we can build capacity, not only telling people they should be more physically active, but actually giving them the resources to do so. And again, if you've got some examples of how you've seen this done in your school community, please share those in the chat box. So the last component that we're going to share with you is dedication of resources. This is very similar to the last one, a little bit different. With dedication of resources, one example of this is allowing outdoor school physical activity spaces to be used for recreation, for physical activities. So this is a big piece of what I actually do on a daily basis with my job, is to work with community partners and school districts to practice open community use. And so in a nutshell, open community use is when a school allows the community, as well as their staff, their students, their families, to use their outdoor recreational facilities when they're not being used by the school. Again, having to do a better job than telling people you should be more physically active, but it's actually giving them a safe, free, easy to get to space to be physically active. And so this could be the school allowing folks to use their track. It could be using their playgrounds, their play fields. It could even be their green spaces. In our rural schools, we know we have the big, beautiful, lush green fields that are not doing anything. Think about all the sports and games that could be played on those fields. Even the parking lots, that's a great safe place where you can learn and practice riding your bicycle, or even do some rollerblading, some skating. Obviously, what we work with our schools and school districts because completely fair. The school may be like, you cannot touch our football field. That is completely fair, but they give us access to the playground or the track. That's a fair trade-off. So it's working with the schools to allow access to these outdoor facilities and making sure there's no gate, locked gate or fence or anything that's preventing access after the school day. And then also maybe your school has these facilities, but they could use some improvement. Well, this is where you can look into your community partners, especially some healthy community coalitions who do have resources and can be like, hey, we want to open up our facilities so that our students are active, our staff's active, and our families are active, but we need to do some cleaning up. So it could be a cleanup day. It could be installing some benches, some trash cans, even some shade, so it's more inviting. Or it could be doing a complete rehaul of the equipment that you have available. So again, just some examples of how you can dedicate resources to support physical activity. And if you have any other examples you would like to share, please put that in the chat box. But we are actually going to wrap up. So we did amazing on time. So I hope we didn't rush through this. But as a wrap-up activity, and because there's only so many of us, I'm just going to literally put y'all on the spot. We want y'all to share what are 1 to 3 things that your school community could start or strengthen to improve family and community partnerships for active school environments. So you think about that. And then Bree, would you mind putting that question in the chat box so that we can go to the next slide? And I'll second. Awesome, thank you. So yeah, think about just at least one thing that your school community could do to improve their family and community partnerships to create more active environments for students. And if you wouldn't mind putting that in chat. Gwendolyn, are you still with us?
Yes.
I'm curious, what is 1 or 2 things that you thought about or a takeaway from this presentation?
Well, I was just gonna say, I know one thing that our schools may need to do is just provide more opportunities for families to engage in more healthy family activities, sort of.
That's a good one to get started on. And think about, I mean, schools they already have events, right, where they're engaging their families and asking them to come, whether it's like a curriculum night or a math night or a meet the teacher night. So how do you just use those already existing opportunities to incorporate some physical activity, but also you can do some healthy eating as well. So
That's great, because we're just getting ready to have a family math night at
Yeah.
one of my schools that I serve.
So, I mean, that's an awesome opportunity to get it started, just to get them interested in it. And then that could lead to providing some additional resources like in the newsletters and stuff like that. So that's a great example and idea. Thanks for sharing that, Gwendolyn. So being mindful of our time, this is just some additional resources that we had to share with y'all. A lot of this we shared already, where you can go back and grab those easy to use resources where you can copy and paste and send them in an email, send them in a newsletter to your families. And then some things that we didn't have a chance to touch on, but we thought that y'all would be interested in them. So y'all will get these slides so that you have these links. And then this is our contact information. So just thank you so much for the time and the space to share these resources with y'all.
Thank you, Erica and Breonna, for your presentation. It gives us some great food for thought, and also some tasks to go back to our schools and school districts and communities in order to focus on those family and community partnerships. It is 11:43. If anybody does not have any questions, if you have questions, put them in the chat. You have the contact information for Erica and Breonna. If there are no further questions, I guess you get to go to lunch early today. Also thank Erica and Breonna in the chat. Thank you, Erica and Breonna.
Thanks again. We enjoyed it.
Thank you.